So we drove in our new Tesla Model S, which is an amazing highway car. It's got insane range. Like there was one stretch where there was like 4 hours of driving between our charging stops, and I was a little bit nervous about that. No problem at all. Like the rated range with the wheels I have is 600,
Kilometers.
but kilometers, and get less than that when you're driving on the highway. But it seems like 550 kilometers easily. The range is just insane. It's the ultimate highway car.
Okay, so that would be around 350 miles of range, roughly. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think of it in terms of hours, right? Like you could drive for 5.5 hours without charging, which
And
is
who can do that,
ridiculous.
Brian? Who can do that? Certainly not you.
Well, it's certainly not me. But driving through Wyoming, there was a 2 hour stretch there where we saw
Nothing.
no civilization, basically.
And there's not much
Like
there to begin with.
there was a town halfway that we could have driven off the highway to go to. We decided not to, and it ended up to be, 2 hours without a town, without a gas station. I was quite surprised. There was occasionally like the cell service would drop out. And, the thing I got most worried about was, well, what if we got a flat tire and there's no cell service?
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was concerned about. But no concerns about the car or the range or anything. But I did stop at the hardware store here in Telluride and bought one of those flat tire inflator kits that,
Right.
that fill in leaks. So we have a backup plan on the way back. But yeah, I just like a really amazing scenic drive. It is unfortunately too long. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm going to want to do this drive again. It's about 18 hours of driving in total.
It's hell.
It's hell, but just incredible scenery. North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, like just ridiculous. All these amazing mountain highways in Colorado. There's a Tesla supercharger 2 minutes from our hotel here in the mountain village. So, like, no concerns about charging. There's all kinds of charging.
See, we always go through Denver now. Well, we've done it 3 times, and it's only 12 hours to Denver. And once you get to Denver, it's
Yeah.
interesting because it's Denver.
Yeah.
The Toronto
I
Blue
think it's
Jays.
a bit more than 12,
My
but go
baseball
ahead.
team was playing down there for the first time in
Yeah.
years while you were there. Didn't do so well. The mountain air. You can't throw those split curveballs and expect them to do things with physics if the air is thin and 35 degrees Celsius. It was hot there in Denver. Is it hot where you are?
Yeah, it's been kind of hot the whole time, like 25 Celsius and sunny.
Well, back home where we
Just,
live, I can tell you it's smoky as hell, Brian. It's
yep.
terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, my
No,
windows are closed in September.
no, I've been looking at the air quality index for Regina, and it's a scale from 1 to 10. But apparently, it's been 10 plus, is what they call it. 10
Yeah,
plus.
10 plus is a void, and it's been criticized because who knows how bad it is. You have to
Yeah,
go into the parts per million to see if you're as bad as Dubai or somewhere like that, and you don't want to be.
yeah.
Um, so my doctor put me down for bariatric surgery wait list against my will. She said, "Well, put you on a wait list where you want to or not, because it's a long wait," and it is. It's like 3 years. So I got the form in the mail, and it says you cannot smoke for 3 months. You have to quit smoking, including marijuana and
Yeah.
everything else. But I'm wondering, because it's a dangerous procedure for those people when you get put under anesthesia. But they say that we're smokers now because of this damn air that we've
Yeah.
lived with all summer long here in Canada, in
Yeah.
Western Canada. I mean, does that change things? It's crazy.
No, that's ridiculously bad for sure.
Well,
Okay. So the rest of the road trip, I just wanted to point out. So driving through North Dakota, very beautiful, like Badlands kind of country, but tons of oil wells, tons of pump jack oil rigs,
tons
which
of
you've
pollution
probably
from those
seen
oil wells, I might
when
add.
you drive through. And but the thing that surprised me more was lots of flaring wells, or what do they call that? So when there's excess natural gas, they just put up a pipe and they just set it on fire and they burn it. And there was just a crazy number of these flaring oil wells, and we
You
do
can
have
see them
those.
in satellite shots of light pollution.
Yeah,
They're there in the middle of nowhere because, well, there's not in the city, and it's depressing and crappy.
It's depressing because you've got this beautiful environment and it's really marred by these oil wells and the flaring. But there was so many that I decided to Google it, and I found an article here from the Pioneer Press in Minnesota from just December of last year that tells me that North Dakota is the absolute worst for these flaring oil wells. They North Dakota is one of 5 states that account for 90%, and they account for the most of this flaring. The second, um, more than Texas. They do this more than Texas.
Nice.
It's really bad. So Texas, the leading oil gas state, flared 0.9%, and North Dakota flares 7% of their production. But then the other thing that we've talked about sometimes on the podcast is how just leaking methane, leaking natural gas is a greenhouse gas. And it's one of the reasons they burn it. Like, burning it is slightly better than releasing it into the atmosphere. But there was a recent study that found that just burning it like this is not as efficient as they thought. So the University of Michigan did a study, and it was previously thought that by burning it, you would do it at about 98% efficiency. So there'd only be 2% of the methane just leaking into the atmosphere. But they did a study and found it's only actually 91%. So, 8 or 9% of the methane is just leaking into the air, which is a very bad
Every
greenhouse
time
gas.
there's a study on this, it's worse than we knew, right? Like, they're
Yeah.
covering up a lot of stuff here, and that's no fun for us. No fun for the
Yeah,
planet.
and it was something that we didn't maybe even need to study until now, or didn't think that we needed to study until now. But of course, it's bad. But then you cross the border into South Dakota, and what did I see? Endless wind turbine farms. Like, South Dakota is doing really well. There are apparently wind turbines in North Dakota as well.
And
But it was a
Montana.
really stark contrast. Like, you're just seeing endless oil wells. Then you cross the border into South Dakota, and it was endless wind turbines, which was, encouraging, I
And
guess.
South Dakota's no friend to saving the planet from climate change, but I think their electricity grid is set up that cheapest one wins, and wind is winning.
Yeah. No, they've been doing much better in South Dakota. So I don't know. The rest of the observations from the trip, once we got into Colorado, we started seeing a lot of Rivians. So I've seen a lot of Rivian pickup trucks and the Rivian
Rivians were made
SUVs.
for Colorado, basically.
Absolutely. This is ground zero for Rivian. And Lucid Motors, the luxury electric automaker, they're one of the sponsors of the Telluride Film Festival. So they're all over Telluride, and they're, shuttling the VIPs around in Lucid Airs here in Telluride.
Well, they should sponsor the podcast, Brian, and give me a Lucid Air to drive around with.
Yeah.
If only for a
So
while.
seen a few Polestars. I saw the new Kia Niro EV. There was one of those. And of course, lots of Lucids. I have a great story about driving into Steamboat Springs in Colorado. This is one of the places that we stopped. It's another mountain town, beautiful place. And as we're pulling into getting near Steamboat Springs, I'm looking at the gauges on the car, and it says it's estimated that we'll have 68% battery when we arrive at our hotel. But I look at the battery and it says 65%. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I guess that's just a mistake. And then I thought, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's a huge downhill into Steamboat Springs. And sure enough, then we just crested a mountain, and it was like 10 minutes downhill into Steamboat Springs. And the battery on the car went from 65% to 68%. It was super fun to watch that.
I had a similar experience on the Coquihalla Highway going, I guess, south. So there was a little climb at the beginning, and then a better route planner was saying, you're basically going to have what you have now. And I thought, oh no, if this is wrong, I'm a stranded James on the Coquihalla Highway, which is basically a freeway in the mountains with nothing around it. So, yeah. But no, that's what happened. And yeah, you got to love electric cars for mountain driving.
Yeah, it's great. They really seem like and anytime you're in a beautiful park like this, it's just always nicer to see EVs and not polluting
Well,
cars.
my son went back up to his great uncle's house to go to school again, and the uncle says, "Well, how was your trip to Vancouver in an electric car? I bet it was challenging." in the mountains. And he says, no, it was, of course it was easier in the mountains. And he was trying to
Yeah.
figure out, well, I guess I could recharge a little bit, but that doesn't make any sense to me. And well, he's 83 years old.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try with him, but smart man, just too old to adjust to new technology.
And we stopped in Deadwood, South Dakota as well, which was just sort of a fun place to visit. I'd never been there before. There's that famous TV show, Deadwood,
Right.
The Old West, and it's got that
Were people
Old West
carrying
vibe. And
were people carrying sidearms there? Because
I
at
did not
Plentywood,
see that.
back in
No.
the 70s, they used to carry sidearms into the bar. In case you had to dispute
Yeah,
with somebody, you had to be right, or if you lost a pool bet or something.
I didn't see it, but I wasn't really looking for it. They had a little Old West shootout at 6 o'clock on the main street. Like they
Was it
blocked
just
off the street and they.
was it actors, or were they just
Yeah.
anybody can just shoot anybody? Is it like a
No, it was actors, and they fired off guns with blanks, and that was kind of fun. But anyway, very quick wrap up of the Telluride Film Festival. It's the 50th one. It's my first time here. It's been a lot of fun. The very first day, we saw Barry Jenkins, who directed Moonlight, Oscar-winning director. He's like an absolute genius filmmaker. He did a great series that's on Amazon Prime of the Underground Railroad.
Okay, just hold
based
on. I
on-
have to have the intro here.
Ryan's Movie Corner.
Go ahead.
And so he's a total genius. So it was great to see him. He introduced the short films that he curates for the festival. He's had a long association with the festival. He also introduced the Julia Louis-Dreyfus film because he had sort of discovered the director of that. It was a first-time director, and her shorts had been in Telluride, programmed by Barry Jenkins. So that was fun to see. And then again, first night we saw Wim Wenders, the great German art film director, who most known for Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire, two amazing movies from the 80s. And they presented him with the Telluride Lifetime Achievement Award. And Werner Herzog presented him the award, which was amazing.
The Clean Energy Show.